So if you're starting a business and you've chosen a business name already, but you haven't registered it, I'd recommend doing some searches just to make sure that that name is actually available. And now this process will depend a little bit on where you live, but I'm just going to speak from my perspective as someone who lives in Canada as a business consultant. I'm living in the province of Saskatchewan, and I know that it's pretty similar in other provinces in Canada. Although I know there are some differences, Alberta has a little bit different rules. But for starters, if you've chosen that business name, before you register it, you'll probably want to check with your corporate registry for your region, just to see if they already have a business registered with that name. And typically they will have an option where you can do that search on your own. At least where I live, I can just search that easily online using a profile that I created with the corporate registry. So that's a really good first step. You probably don't want to have a business name registered when someone else already has that registered in your region. Sometimes that's not allowed. Where I live, that's not allowed. In other provinces like Alberta, they're more lenient with that, having duplicate names for some types of businesses. So that would be a good starting point. Check with your corporate registry if the business name you want to register is actually still available and not being used by someone else. Another way to search, and this is just kind of a quick, easy way that's not necessarily that formal, but just doing Google searches for that business name and see what comes up. You know, maybe you're living in Ontario in Canada and there's a business like that in Australia or in England or something. And in that case, that might be fine. It might not matter, especially if it's a type of business that just serves people locally. You know, if it's a restaurant or an electrician or something like that, if they're in Australia, they're not really competing with you, and so it might be okay if they have the same business name as you. But if that's someone in the same city that has that business name registered, probably not a good idea, even if it's allowed under your corporate registry. Now, another way to search would be to do a federal search. And here in Canada, there is a website for that where you can just go online and search under certain business names for the whole country. And that'll show you businesses that are registered provincially or even ones that are incorporated federally. So that's a good way to find out as well. You know, maybe you are in Nova Scotia and there's a business registered with your name in Alberta. Might not be an issue, but again, if you are in Ontario and there's already business in Ontario actively using that business name, you're probably not going to want to use it, and you probably can't in that province. And then lastly would be to do a trademark search. And this is really important in some cases. I've seen this recently with a couple of clients where I helped them register a business name. In some cases, you might have approval from your provincial corporate registry or state corporate registry to use a business name because no one else is using it in your jurisdiction. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can use it from a legal standpoint, because there might be someone who has trademarked that name as a business name, especially if it's for a similar type of business or similar type of product or service. So that's something that's good to look into as well. And for Canada, there is an online trademark database that you can look at just to see if anything has been registered as a trademark. And in some cases, this is really important to not use a business name or a name for a product or service when it's already been trademarked, especially if it's really similar to what you're wanting to use, because you might get a letter from a lawyer saying, hey, this name is trademarked, you can't use it for your business purposes. It's too similar to what we're doing or our clients are doing, so you're gonna have to discontinue that. You wouldn't wanna start a business and build a name and reputation for yourself to later find out that you can't actually use that name because it's already trademarked. However, there are some cases where it might not matter as much. You know, again, maybe there's an example of a business in Australia that has something trademarked and they kind of just want it for the country of Australia or whatever. They're not really serving clients in the US or Canada or whatever. Might not matter as much, especially if it's like a different product or a different service. Likewise, in Canada, sometimes there might be trademarks for one product and you want to trademark it for a different type of product that's totally different. You know, that might be possible. That would be something to speak to a trademark expert on, typically a lawyer, just to help navigate that situation. But again, just important to be mindful of and important to do a little bit of research on before registering your business, because you really don't want to run into that situation where you've done all this planning for your business name. Maybe you built a website and got a domain name and made some, clothing or business cards, later to find out that A, that business name is not available in your region, B, there's already a trademark on it, and C, there's already a well-known business using that. It could be one of those or multiple ones of those. But again, just important to look into and avoid from the start if you can. So hopefully that was helpful. If you liked the video, please click like and check out the other videos on my YouTube channel. I have well over 100 now on business startup and business management topics. And if you have a question on any of those topics, feel free to just leave a comment in the comment section below and I will address it there. And if you're starting a business or you already own a business and you're just looking for ways to improve, feel free to reach out. I have a free 1-hour consultation available and I will leave a link for that in the video description below.